Okay, welcome, friends. This is another Freedom Under Natural Law 5 conference speaker interview. And it's my pleasure to have Catherine Waters on. And you're an OG, Cat. You've been around for a long time, putting out great content, speaking the truth, the majority of your life. So we're very grateful and honored to have you on the Funnel 5 Ignite Hearts and Minds conference. And let's start off with just a brief little intro on who you are.
Um, a healthy person. I just would like to think of myself as just simply being healthy and fit, what we're supposed to be when we come into this world that unfortunately was completely crystal clear. And I hate to give, dates and numbers and all, but, 56 years ago, you could feel the genetic modification process of your health, like really under assault. That was normalized. People in authority enabled, excused, while the healthy, vulnerable truth teller, victim was kind of thrown under the bus. And, I had no idea, that just kind of having normal adverse responses to very dysfunctional and toxic environments was going to perpetuate and continue, this long, into 20. Now it's coming up on 2026. I can just kind of keep talking. I was gaslit, discredited, silenced, what I just have come to, keep referring to as, the micro of the macro, the podcast that I do on One Great Work Network and also Revolution.Radio Studio B every Wednesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I was calling and still call the family industrial complex. I feel like the family system and the indoctrination, the mistreatment of children literally should be like the one topic that people need to focus on and take incredibly seriously. And the fact that that has not been happening, that it's the exact opposite, and that the very populations that, should have been fought for, like with a vengeance to protect all these decades, have been treated the exact opposite, have been, treated like they don't count, treated like they have no value, treated like, there's something wrong with them, and just completely and utterly sacrificed in order to, just keep propping up the Satanists that should not be. And people say like, oh, people are waking up, but not nearly as much as they should be. I was forced to become like just so passionate and obsessed with fitness, mentally, physically, and spiritually, like literally since the 70s, because of the glaring clarity of, the adult children around me, that just I could feel it intuitively inside of me that there really weren't genuine, healthy, mature, responsible grown-ups around, to role model your, to set examples for you. Like no one had courage, like no one had fitness. And with the amount of health attack, gaslighting, that I sustained, just too early. And then, the mind body's just healthy adverse response to what was happening to you. And that is what people, criminalized and pathologized, all like, this, and it just like keeps going to this day, this like, oh, authority is always right. I was just watching this Corbett report documentary called the Descent into Madness, and I'm grateful that he is bringing this matter to light, like this pathologizing of conspiracy theorists and whistleblowers. What I basically knew was the pathologizing and criminalizing of our basic health, not just like dissent or whistleblowing, but just healthy anger, was one of the healthy vital parts of ourselves. Sexuality, there was just like a varying degree, that I was studying this stuff literally all my life, in the 80s, trying to teach people how their vital parts, their what should be self-actualizing and just reaching a person's healthy potential. It should not be a luxury, it should not be radical, but because it got neglected for so many decades and people just normalize being reduced, like everything people should have been resisting and noticing, like, hey, this is not right, hey, this needs to be countered, we need to like respond and go in another direction. And so it's just like the dysfunctional abusive family system on a mass scale. And again, like, it's very, very dangerous. We're like, it's extraordinarily dangerous what's happening when adult people, credentialed people like journalists, or and I don't even want, I even hesitate to say that, because when so-called credentialed people, and as legitimate as they may be, it's like when they get attacked or they get put in, like, sent for a psych eval because they're, challenging the 9/11 official story or the COVID official story, when, children are being and have been, satanic ritually abused, sex trafficked, literally tortured, raped, to death. And I hate to be, but I have to, just say like the real math, and just how dangerous, utterly, utterly dangerous, a world that we're living in, where some people, human beings, just get framed and scapegoated as having no value, and literally created in order to be discard and framed as, like, just not to be counted, is just, that is just utterly and utterly dangerous, and a difficult place for us to pull back from.
Yeah, well said. I love everything that you talk about. You represent the vigilance, and you don't censor yourself. You don't sugarcoat stuff. You're talking about profound topics. I love how you always bring it back to fitness, mentally, physically, spiritually. This is what we need to do, is like redefine what it means to be human. And so many people for so long, hundreds, thousands of years, right? These philosophical and moral questions have been programmed and conditioned into the youth. So the slave mindset, the domesticated human keeps getting propagated. So I love your work, and the Funnel 5, it's a perfect conference for you to come in because it's ignite hearts and minds. There's a fire element there, right? I mean, this is the fifth funnel conference. Our whole motto is to inspire people to take action within their own life, to get on that battlefield, to go public, to talk about these important topics. And Catherine Waters is perfect junction to this conference to bring your topics and your energy. And the next question I would like you to talk about is, what is your presentation topic? And give us just, a little pitch on it without revealing too much.
I feel like I pretty much, said it. Again, fitness is, of course, in the title. and how it's been diluted, our mental and spiritual health, and just the quality standard that we should be functioning at, that average people, the minute you're born, are entitled to, and how much it has just been so desecrated, so diluted, so genetically modified. And people really, I mean, I saw this, like I lived it, and I was like horrified by it, like 4 decades ago, how the system is just, and the public follows man-made. They follow man-made, like they were not following, nature made, God made. I mean, I just I always turn to, to fitness, to align with, to sharpen myself on, because of how much I was being assaulted and undermined, and things that I lived, saw, viscerally experienced. People would just try to, make you feel crazy, that you didn't live, that you didn't see. And it literally was just like a full-time job. And this should not be for a child to have to be like literally, gasping and flailing to hold on to your faculties, that the people all around you are doing, like the people right around you, the very people that should be reinforcing, helping you to be strengthened, cultivating you, like helping you. Like, this is what always scared the living heck out of me over the decades, are families and communities having absolutely no concept that they're supposed to be the ones instilling, transferring health, infusing health into a young, vulnerable person, so that you then can become, a healthy, credible, credentialed, professional in society. And instead, it's like people have just gotten so out of touch with, like nature, and like where things come from, and how to farm and cultivate, even like another human being, and then just looking to extract before they cultivate. They're extracting and not cultivating the most innocent and vulnerable people. And it's and then they blame the vulnerable for being the way that they are, and you giving them the negative feedback that they deserve. I mean, it's like insane.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's insane. And this is a fantastic topic, extremely relevant. Kind of a bonus question that I would like you to kind of touch on real quick while we have a few more minutes is, I want to ask you, because, many people that are coming into this work and going public, or some are a few years fresh, some are months, some have a little bit longer, but you have such a long swaths of time that you have been on the battlefield. Can you speak on just longevity? I mean, ultimately, the time that we live in, like, the lifespan is one big shadow work process. But then there are facets where people can get into, like coming public and speaking about the horrors and the enslavement of the human condition, like yourself. What are some aspects that you can kind of touch on to give someone some resilience in that longevity of, speaking truth and walking that path? And then also, where can people find your work and your content?
Well, right, the main page would be onegreatworknetwork.com. Under creators is where most of the stuff, since One Great Work Network started in, I believe it was February of 2019. I mean, I have done things prior to that, which can be found on YouTube. Awake Radio, and the number one with no space, and you just go to videos, and there's like a ton of things, people that I've interviewed, kind of like I'm always trying to connect micro and macro. And one thing that I was thinking about, Will, while you were speaking, was that I should say is the mind body connection, health. When we come into this world, the mind and body work in sync and we function with them in sync when we're young. And then, of course, society with, really comes in hard, trying to like sever the mind and, you know, program literally the intellect against this, against the body. Again, when you have healthy feelings and not listening to the body, and like once the system and the psychos that be can get and program this to be against this, like that's it. Like, we're really all under occupation. And I intentionally want to parallel the Palestinian genocide that's been going on for close to 80 years. I mean, I speak of like 50 plus years, and the Palestinian genocide is close to 80 years. The USS Liberty is like 57 years. So, like when I hear and learn about all these stories all through the decades, I'm like, wow, this is all literal, macro stories of the scale down. It's scaled down, but it's very widespread and pervasive. So it's not exactly like micro. And so, by working, like, this is what I feel like people, and it's hard, it's hard to get momentum and traction and density where there is none, to try to get the ball rolling where there is none. Because like what again terrifies me, because I'm always looking, I've always aligned with health and fitness, and how nature and health work. And you're supposed to give momentum and traction to people who have little to none, not the other way around. Like it's gone the complete opposite direction of, again, extracting from the most vulnerable to keep giving to and propping up people who already have way too much traction and momentum. And that needs to be reversed. And it should have never been in the first place. And so, again, just aligning with how nature and health work and how they're supposed to work. If we're not already too, far off course, too misaligned, just admit that we're misaligned and just move, towards alignment, and little by little, in your own life. And I understand, and I guess I'll stick in the monetary system, which is a huge inhibitor and deterrent, in keeping people deviated. I mean, preventing them, because again, it's been normal. Like, I've always tried to set the bar like high, again, where health sets it. We're supposed to be raised to reach our healthy potential and live a good life, earn a living, after we are the, authentic people that we're supposed to be, sharing our unique talents with the world. And again, that is just not the way that it is for so many people. And then you're kind of stagnant, stunted, spending your life, not able to really, get beyond, just having like maybe a job that your values are not in alignment, that you're, that are not feeding, your gifts and your talents. And that has just become way too accepted. And the bill for doing that and selling out like our higher levels of health is so upon us, and it's just not going to be pretty. What is mathematically unavoidable at this point.
Mathematically unavoidable. Yes, exactly. Cause and effect by law. And one of the purposes of having the funnel conference is to showcase content creators, truth speakers like yourself, under this umbrella of true freedom, natural law, and knowledge and action, right? So there's a showcase of content creators to the public, and then obviously the inspiration to the public to, come on, join forces or support content creators. And Catherine Waters, you're going to be on the website with your links on there so people can go to your content, support you. I highly recommend people supporting your own work. And also your radio show, Revolution Radio, 4 p.m. Eastern, Studio B.
Oh, yeah, every Wednesday, 4 to 6, Studio B. The family industrial complex, I call it, because I mean, it's not easy to, like, to me, this is like the most important thing is to really look at the family system, and it's your right to critique parents. I mean, that whole, parents did the best they could, and getting people at way too young of ages to be sacrificing themselves to, like, oh, forgive, and oh, my parents did the best they could. But when you do the math, when you do the science, like, that's how people just learn to shortchange themselves in life. And then you'll just be doing that for the rest of your life. I mean, when you just stick to the math and the science of, like, natural law and the standard, that health sets, people, it's mathematically impossible to just lower the bar and say, oh, parents did the best they could. I mean, if they suck, they sucked. If they're misaligned, they're misaligned. If they didn't hit the bullseye, they didn't hit the bullseye. And you don't do anybody any favors by coddling them and enabling them to go even further out of alignment. Like, you're just doing them, but of course, like, young people doing that is just going to be like a default response. And if there's nobody to, correct it and realign it, then it's just going to keep going further and further, off course. And and hence here we are in almost 2026 in this insane world that we're living in.
Yes, that's right. We need a massive course correction. Starts in the mind. And, so, ladies and gentlemen, February 21st, 22nd is the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference. This will always be a free event, 2-day online free event, so people can join live. We have all the replays from our past conferences on there. We have links to every presenter that we've had in any of the conferences on our website, freedomundernaturallaw.com, so you can dive into their work as well and support them. And we are extremely excited and honored to have you on, Catherine, and we look forward to your talk on fitness.
Amen to that.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining. This is a Funnel 5 speaker interview. See you next time.